Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and we're back with the Department in a Box series, the behind-the-scenes tour of the core departments every non-alc bar, bottle shop, or third space needs if you want to stop running a chaotic group project and start running a real business. This is part 3, and today we're diving into one of the most avoided, most emotionally loaded, and most business-defining departments you will ever build. Yes, today we're talking about interviewing, hiring, and onboarding. And if you listen to the last 2 episodes, you already understand the pattern. More order brings you more clarity. More clarity brings you more confidence. And more confidence helps you make better decisions. And nowhere is this more important than your people. Because let's be honest, you can have the most beautiful menu, the most dialed in operations, you can have the best dashboard, the best vibes on earth. But if you don't know how to hire, everything collapses. This is the backbone of your entire experience. So let's get into it. Most owners and operators treat hiring like it's an emergency, like they hire during a scramble, like we need someone now, as if there's some sort of panic button that has been pressed. And that mindset guarantees 2 things. Number 1, you are definitely going to hire the wrong people, unless there's some random stroke of luck, which is very rare. And the second thing is you're going to just hate the process every single time. The hiring department is not about applications and interviews. It's about building a sustainable pipeline. So you want people who want to work with you. You want people who understand what they're walking into. You want people who are excited to show up and grow inside of your environment. And when you treat hiring like it's a function, not a reaction, all of a sudden everything changes. Your standards, your decision-making, your energy around leadership, you're no longer stuck feeling scarce. You're no longer putting up with things for the sake of making it through another day. You're able to make strategic decisions. So let's start by talking about interviewing, then we'll move into hiring, and then we'll move into onboarding. So the truth about interviewing is that it has very little to do with the resumes and a quick conversation, right? Especially in the non-alcoholic, kava, botanical, third place world, you are not hiring for a resume. You're hiring for presence, attitude, vibe, adaptability, integrity, and the genuine desire to be part of your community. Skills can be trained. You can teach people how to work behind a bar. You can teach people how to clean. You can teach people how to push buttons on a piece of technology. But heart is something that's not really trainable in this environment or context specifically. Otherwise, we're going to cross into some weird HR zones, right? But that being said, you still need a system for this, right? Because vibes or like a good heart without structure is going to lead to favoritism, inconsistency, and confusion. So here's what a structured interview process actually looks like and what it means. Number 1, you've got pre-written questions that specifically test for value, not just skills. You also have a rubric that defines what good looks like. So what that means is not only are you saying, hey, look, this is the job, this is the description, but also here's the rubric in which we grade or define your job performance. And if you're communicating that off the bat, people have the opportunity to interview you, right? So interviews are not just about you interviewing them. They need to interview you and make sure that they feel aligned as well. They need to make sure that this job is right for them. So having that structure, having that rubric and showing them, hey, this is what our performance reviews look like. This is what a write-up looks like. And these are the situations in which we talk about A, B, and C, right? Very important to bring that up in the interview, because then it's clear if someone is consenting to that system or not, rather than just being thrown to the wolves at some point, learning it along the way. A good structured interview also has a process that you can repeat every single time, so you're not coming up with this on the bat. You have a template inside of your operations dashboard. Again, we use Notion. That's what we love, and we know it is tried, true, and tested. But the point is you're not leaving details out. You're making sure everybody's starting from the same standard so that when you are executing that standard, when you're grading that standard, again, it doesn't feel like favoritism, inconsistency, or confusion. Now, the last part of a structured interview that's incredibly important is the next clear step. Yes, no, or trial shift, right? So it's not that you have to give the answer in the interview. You can say, I will follow up with you within 1 day, 1 week, whatever it needs to be. And you're going to follow up via email. And then you double check that email address that they have is correct. And you make sure that they understand that that is the action item that you're going to take. And then you're going to take that action with integrity. You're going to follow through. And then if they choose to follow through, then we know it could potentially be a great fit. This is how you avoid hiring your friend's cousin because they seem nice and then spending 6 months cleaning up the mess after, right? We want to make sure that the interview process is something that makes sense for everybody. One other note I want to put here is this is a process. Sometimes this is 2 conversations. Sometimes in order to ensure that the rubric is shown, that the right questions are being asked, sometimes that is a 2-step interview process, maybe by a shift lead and then by a manager, or maybe it's by a manager and then the owner, depending on how your company is set up. But this is a process that is going to be different for each company based on each company's needs. Now, that being said, let's talk about hiring. So most hiring problems aren't actually hiring problems, they're standards problems, right? So owners think things like, I can fix their work ethic, or they'll get better after a week, or I'll train them out of their attitude, or they said they'd be free all weekend, so it'll be fine. These are not true. 9.99 times out of 10, it is not true. Who they are on day one, who they are in that interview, is likely who they'll be on day 100. Now, sometimes it can be worse because some people like to put up a front or they try to act some type of way in the interview, but we're talking about the hiring aspect. So once they've been hired, they show up to that next conversation. That is the day one, right? So when we're talking about hiring, this is not, you don't want to hire based off of potential. It's based off of current alignment in this single moment. Okay? Very important. You also have to make sure that they're in alignment with the way your space operates. So that doesn't just mean operationally can they do everything, but also operationally can they fit in with the team that currently exists. And you have to double check that the personality clashes aren't going to affect your operation. Depends on their scheduling, their availability, of course, but it's very important that you're not trying to change people or see the good in them. You want to take them for their face value because more often than not, people tend to fold a little bit more under pressure rather than blossom. And you'd rather be pleasantly surprised by a blossoming than seeing someone falter at that moment where they're building themselves up. So the department in a box system in general forces you to slow down and define each of these steps, right? So what kind of humans thrive here? What kind of behaviors are non-negotiable? What does professionalism look like in a specifically sober, community-driven space? This is very different than many other environments. Also, what red flags specifically will you never ignore again? This is how you stop the revolving door. This is how you build a team that you don't have to babysit. So once again, once someone is hired, there's a whole process that goes into this where you are double checking that they are who they said they are in the interview. They're not officially fully onboarded, right? You would traditionally give a probationary period where you start and you say, okay, here's the conversation we're going to have. We're going to deep dive into the employee manual. We're going to deep dive into these things and we're going to try to understand, we started to say what was important to us in the interview, but now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Are you still on board? So hiring is still part of the interviewing process, right? You don't want to have a revolving door of constant staff turnover. So this is how you build a team that you don't have to babysit. You're asking these questions, you're setting up time, you're not just trying to throw someone behind a bar in under a week. You need it to be something that is not a survival activity, but rather a thriving growth opportunity. So that being said, let's say someone made it through the interview and then they made it through the hiring process. So they responded to your emails in a great time. You communicated a little bit more on the expectations, the roles, double checking, hey, do you consent to this business relationship? Now it's time to onboard. And this is the part that pretty much everyone messes up when they are first getting their business together, which is fine. We all live, learn, grow, and figure it out. But onboarding is the most overlooked revenue lever in your entire business because a strong onboarding system should reduce turnover, increase sales, build culture faster, and prevent 95% of the "why didn't anyone tell me this" sort of chaos. A strong onboarding system also makes people feel like they belong, which means that they stay. They're not questioning whether or not this is the place for them. The thing is that most owners do a 5-minute walkthrough, hand someone a rag and a POS login, and then they call that onboarding. And then they throw them behind the bar for like 2 training shifts, and then they're like wondering why guest experience is inconsistent, why the team feels and seems so lost, why does no one follow SOPs, right? A lot of owners also feel exhausted from answering the same questions, and then they burn out their new hires within 30 days. You can avoid all of this by having proper onboarding, and that looks like step-by-step training, shadowing, clear SOPs, defined expectations, role-specific skills, culture integration, a training checklist you actually complete, and a 30-day review that tells you if they're the right fit before it's too late. Onboarding is where you show someone, here's what excellence looks like, here's where and how we do things. This is not optional. This is not nice to have. This is the foundation of everything else, okay? So when you have an actual hiring and onboarding department built into your operations rather than just some template that's stuck in your Gmail or a Google Doc or a Post-it notes hidden somewhere, this is going to make the biggest difference. So to be super blunt, bad hiring costs you real money, right? One wrong hire alone could cause you to lose thousands of dollars in labor, product, training time, and mistakes. Multiply that by 3 bad hires in a year, suddenly you're looking at a $20,000 problem, even though it felt like you were maybe only hiring the bare minimum at the time or just getting by. In reality, you just took $20,000 out of your own pocket because you did not create this system. But if you build this system within this hiring and onboarding department the right way, yes, you're going to hire slower, but it'll be smarter because you're going to onboard better. People are going to stay. You stop babysitting. You prevent cultural issues before they even start. And you build a space that you actually step away from without panic. So all of a sudden, now, once you've got your dream team together, applications naturally just roll in. So you'll always have a backstock of people to pull from. You're not going to feel scarce. If someone leaves, you say congratulations, right? That's the difference. That's how you don't lose $20,000, but instead you can double down on the success that you're already achieving. So this is not just about staff. This is about leadership. It's about creating a legacy space. This is about building a business that people are actually proud to work in, not just to clock into and pay for their lives. So if you have ever said, I can't find good staff, or people don't want to work, or I feel like I'm constantly retraining, the issue is not the industry. It is the department. And once you fix the department, everything else becomes easier. Your service gets tighter, your nights run smoother, your culture solidifies, your team grows with you, not against you. And if you want to get the templates, the interview scripts, the hiring rubrics, the onboarding checklist, and the exact system we use with our clients, you can grab the interviewing, hiring, and onboarding department in a box at the link inside of this episode summary. And tomorrow, we're going to move into the next department in a box, and we're going to keep building the backbone of your business piece by piece. So as always, if you need anything, just let me know. Send me an email, hello@marinamars.com. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode.